TV might be all about fantasy, but every so often, the real world intrudes. When a beloved cast member passes away on a show, the creators go to great lengths to honor their fellow cast member and oftentimes friend. Here are several character deaths that happened because the actor died. Apart from the occasional shot of an arm or a glimpse of her from across a vast distance, Mrs. Wolowitz was never actually seen on The Big Bang Theory. In the tradition of Vera from Cheers or Maris from Frasier, Mrs. Wolowitz's appearance exists only in the minds of viewers. This makes sense, as producers likely would have had a tough time finding an actor who fit the description laid out in numerous bits of dialogue, which imply she is an impossibly large person. Instead, Carol Ann Susie provided a voice for the character. She had an extremely loud and exaggerated New Jersey accent, heard when yelling at her son Howard from around the house they shared.
I'm in the toilet!
So, how'd it go?
Too soon to say, I'm not done yet!
Susie, who'd amassed dozens of acting credits, died of cancer in November 2014 at the age of 62. A few months later, in the 2015 episode The Comic Book Store Regeneration, The Big Bang Theory's writers said goodbye to Mrs. Wolowitz. While visiting her sister Gladys in Florida, she passes away in her sleep. While the actors who played the titular Doctor on Doctor Who changed every few years, allowing the show to soldier on since the 1960s, some performers stayed with the show for long periods of time, playing the same characters through the show's various eras. Nicholas Courtney, for example, first appeared as the Brigadier on Doctor Who in 1968, alongside second Doctor Patrick Troughton. Courtney returned to Doctor Who every so often, playing the Brigadier in episodes starring 4 different actors as the Doctor, stretching to 1989 when Doctor Who was canceled. In the 2005 reboot, the Brigadier was mentioned as being off in Peru, and then Courtney reprised the character in the Doctor Who spin-off, The Sarah Jane Adventures. Courtney died at age 81 just before the final season of that show hit the air, but he was such a big part of the Doctor Who franchise that he was given a send-off on the flagship series. In the 2011 episode The Wedding of River Song, the Doctor calls up the nursing home where the Brigadier had been living and learns from a staff member that the man passed away a few months ago, and often regaled the staff with tales of his adventures with the Doctor. Lynn Thigpen starred in more than 70 films and TV shows over a career that lasted 40 years, and her most memorable and notable roles are widely varied, including the ominous DJ and narrator of the 1979 cult classic The Warriors, District Attorney Ruby Thomas on LA Law, and the Chief, the in-house orders giver on the popular 90s kids game show Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego. 5 years after that show ended production, Thigpen joined the cast of The District, a CBS crime drama starring Craig T. Nelson as Chief Jack Mannion, a New Jersey police chief who moves to Washington, D.C. to serve as the new police commissioner. Helping Chief Mannion fight bad guys and corruption is his best friend and closest advisor, Ella Farmer, a D.C. crime analyst. Thigpen portrayed Farmer from 2000 to 2003, last appearing in the 3rd season episode Rage. Shortly before the show wrapped production for the year, Thigpen died unexpectedly at age 54. Production on The District was immediately halted, and when things started back up again 3 weeks later, cast and crew shot an installment called Ella May, in which Chief Mannion learns that his dear friend has died and has to break the news to his squad. As an animated series, adhering to the rules of reality isn't usually much of a concern to the makers of Family Guy. However, when the highly recognizable actors behind certain recurring roles pass away, the show usually retires their characters by having them die, following it up with an uncharacteristic, sweet and sentimental on-air tribute. Carrie Fisher, forever Princess Leia in the Star Wars movies, appeared often on Family Guy as Peter Griffin's lascivious boss, Angela. Fisher died in 2016, and the show paid homage 2 years later, with Peter delivering a graveside eulogy at Angela's rainy day funeral. Peter calls her
fearless, spontaneous, honest. About herself just as much as she was about the world around her.
Obviously, Peter was referring more to the actor than her character. 2017 brought another major death to the show's door with the passing of Adam West. The man best known for playing Batman had become nearly as beloved for his portrayal of Mayor Adam West. a bizarre version of himself who rules over Family Guy's Quahog. In the 2019 episode Adam West High, the mayor's passing is commemorated when the town decides to rename the local high school after him. Later on, he appears in the form of a ghost, but is quickly captured by Peter. With 20 seasons and more than 600 produced episodes, the classic TV Western Gunsmoke was at one time the longest-running dramatic TV series in American history. Set in the late 19th century in Dodge City, Kansas, the action centered around U.S. Marshal Matt Dillon as he enforced the law. Among the show's sprawling cast of characters was Sam Noonan, barkeep at the town's chief watering hole, the Long Branch Saloon. Glenn Strange took over the role in 1961. Strange, a rodeo performer and stuntman before he became an actor, also played Frankenstein's monster in a series of old horror movies. His final episode of Gunsmoke, The Hanging of Newly O'Brien, aired in November 1973, 2 months after Strange died of cancer at the age of 74. Rather than replace Strange, producers opted to quietly and simply explain that Sam Noonan had died. Gunsmoke ended slightly more than a year later. Smallville took a novel approach to the Superman mythos. The 2001 to 2011 WB/CW series was a decade-long origin story for the Man of Steel, depicting the adventures of young Clark Kent as he learns to use the tremendous powers that will enable him to grow up to be Superman. Producers created Easter eggs for franchise fans, casting actors from the 1970s and 1980s Superman movies in special roles, including Terrence Stamp, General Zod in Superman 2 as Superman's father, Annette O'Toole, Lana Lang in Superman 3 as Clark Kent's adoptive mother, and Christopher Reeve, Superman himself, as Dr. Virgil Swann, a character created just for the series. He was a rich industrialist and founder of the mysterious and powerful Veritas Society, who serves as a teacher and advisor to Clark. About a decade after Reeve was paralyzed from the neck down in a horse riding accident, he died at age 52 in October 2004. At the beginning of a February 2005 episode of Smallville, Clark Kent receives the news that his mentor has died. Punky Brewster started off pretty dark for a show that aimed to attract an audience of little kids. Soleil Moon Frye played Penelope Punky Brewster, an abandoned child squatting in an apartment where she's discovered and reluctantly taken in by Henry Warnemont, an elderly, lonely, and very grumpy photographer played by George Gaines. He saves Punky from the streets, the charming girl lights up Henry's whole life, and they become an unlikely family. Punky Brewster debuted in 1984, a very good year for Gaines. That year also saw the release of the first of his mini Police Academy movies, wherein he played Commandant Eric Lassard. After a long life and career, Gaines died in 2016 at age 98. Punky Brewster returned in 2021 in the form of a reboot set in the present day. In it, Punky is now a 40-something single mother who befriends an orphaned girl who reminds her of herself. In the pilot, Henry makes a quick, photo-only cameo. At the very beginning of the episode, a picture of Henry and his camera hangs on the wall of Punky's living room. Punky greets the photo, saying, "Morning, Henry. What a beautiful day." Later, her kids mention the picture of Grandpa, implying that Henry stayed her parental figure over the years until his death at some unstated time between the end of the original Punky Brewster in 1988 and 2021. Law & Order ran for 20 seasons and experienced rapid cast turnover, but the actor who's probably the face of the show is likely Jerry Orbach. For nearly 300 episodes over 13 years, he played NYPD detective Lennie Briscoe, a rumpled and world-weary recovering alcoholic prone to making dark wisecracks about murder victims and suspects, who serves as a mentor figure to his succession of junior detective partners. Orbach was an acting legend before he came to Law & Order, starring in Broadway productions including Guys and Dolls and Chicago, and films like Crimes and Misdemeanors and Dirty Dancing.
I see someone in front of me who got his partner in trouble and sent her off to some butcher while he moved on to an innocent young girl like my daughter.
Lennie Briscoe was such a prominent and popular character in the Law & Order TV universe that when Dick Wolf debuted a spin-off in 2005 called Law & Order Trial by Jury, he savvily attracted viewers to it by transplanting Briscoe, who left the NYPD to become an investigator for the district attorney's office. After filming 2 episodes of the new series, in which he was so weak from cancer treatments that he reportedly could only whisper his lines, Orbach died at age 69. In the world of the show, the death of Detective Briscoe was mentioned on a 2007 episode of Law & Order: Criminal Intent when his old partner from the original Law & Order, Mike Logan, revealed that he saw his deceased colleague in his dreams sometimes. Jack Sue was born Goro Suzuki and changed his name when he became a professional entertainer. Sue worked in show business long before he landed his signature role as Sergeant Nick Yemana on the ABC Police Precinct workplace comedy Barney Miller in 1975. Along with parts on Ironside, Police Story, and MASH, Sue starred in both the stage and movie versions of the popular musical Flower Drum Song and the classic war movie The Green Berets. But Sue was best known for his work as a beleaguered New York police detective on Barney Miller, particularly because his character was responsible for the show's most notable running joke. Sergeant Yemana made notoriously, indescribably terrible coffee. Around 1978, Sue was diagnosed with esophageal cancer, and he underwent tumor removal surgery and a 6-week stay at UCLA for cutting-edge treatments. He missed episodes of Barney Miller, and writers explained that Sergeant Yemana was convalescing from appendicitis at a New York hospital. In January 1979, Sue died at age 63. The 1978 season finale of Barney Miller broke format and the fourth wall. The surviving cast members of the show took the half hour to pay tribute to Sue. They discussed their coworker and friend, interspersed with clips of his best and funniest Barney Miller moments. When the show returned in the fall of 1979, Yemana's absence was noted, and the character was spoken of in the past tense. Dolph Sweet discovered his passion for acting during World War II, when, during a lengthy internment in a prisoner of war camp in Germany, he put on a play with some other detainees. After the war, Sweet worked in theater before landing his first big movie role at age 40 in The Young Doctors. In that role, he played a police officer for the first of more than a dozen times. This included The Defenders in the 60s, on Mrs. Columbo in the 70s, and on Gimme a Break from 1981 onward. On that sitcom, Sweet portrayed the Chief, or Carl Kaminski, head of police in a California suburb and a single father who brings in a housekeeper to look after his 3 daughters and a foster son. Sweet died of cancer at age 61 in May 1985, and Gimme a Break returned for the first episode of its 5th season that fall. The episode Joey's Train is set 3 months after the cancer-related death of the Chief. The characters have absorbed the initial trauma and grief of the loss and are attempting to move on. They face some difficult tests, such as when a present he bought for adopted son Joey is uncovered, and when his daughter Julie wants to move into his old bedroom, but housekeeper Nell isn't quite ready for that shift. Hill Street Blues debuted in January 1981, and it was unlike any other police procedural series that had aired on American television to that point. Gritty, realistic, deliberate, and mournful, it depicted the beat officers of an unnamed mid-size American city police department as they dealt with the stress, fear, and personal psychological turmoil of busting criminals. Actor Michael Conrad was responsible for some of Hill Street Blues' most memorable moments. He played Philip Esterhaus, the desk sergeant who performed the morning roll call and doled out orders and assignments, ending with a heartfelt reminder to his officers.
All right, let's roll. Hey, let's be careful out there.
Conrad won 2 Emmy Awards for Outstanding Supporting Actor in a Drama Series for his work as the gruff, paternal man of quiet dignity who was maybe more than a little broken inside. In November 1983, when Hill Street Blues was halfway through production on its 4th season, Conrad died of urethral cancer at age 58. In Grace Under Pressure, which aired in February 1984, the show addressed the disappearance of Esterhaus. Captain Frank Furillo informs the squad that the desk sergeant has died. The manner of his death was uncharacteristically tawdry. He'd been dating the adventurous Grace Gardner, and he suffered a fatal heart attack during a spirited lovemaking session. Check out one of our newest videos right here. Plus, even more Looper videos about your favorite TV shows are coming soon. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.